Alright, I thought I would start today's highlight video from GreatStockPicks.com with one of my all-time favorite setups. It happened today in Blackberry. BBRY, alright? First of all, what you have, now these are 15-minute candles, okay? And this was an afternoon rally that occurred a few days ago. Look at that move. Look at the volume. Just massive, right? Let me get those lines out of the way now. And then you had, let's get some arrows going here. Then you had the opening, that's not an arrow. Then you had the opening candle the next day, right there, that red one. And then the very next day, the opening candle. Now you notice, after the opening candle of the day following that afternoon rally, all right, there's the opening 15, 30-minute high right there. The rest of the day came nowhere near the early high, right? Then the next day, which was Friday, there's the opening candle. So remember, you get this big rally. Now you've got the next day, it couldn't take out its early high. The day after that, couldn't take out its early high. It did rally to here in the afternoon. So now I've got a huge rally, 2 days where it couldn't break its early high. When I say its early high, I mean the high in the morning, couldn't break it in the afternoon. This lands it on my bounce play watch list because of the passion here. Couple grinding lower days, just basically have this long flag now after this rally. Okay, so now it lands on bounce watch. All right, let me switch to the daily real quick. Just a quick shot. This is what it looked like on the daily. So some recent strength, but this green candle here was the day of that big rally, and then here's those two lower volume. Whoops, you should kind of see that, especially Friday, lower volume, and those are the 2 days where it couldn't break its early high. All right, so now let's fast forward to this morning. So this was on our bounce play watch list for our members this morning. You get the gap down, courtesy of Cypress if I had to guess, right? Because everything pretty much gapped down. So you get the gap down. These are 5-minute candles. The early high, 1479, and the early low, 1465. So what's good about that is it's in a fairly narrow range, right? 79, 65, what is it, 14 cents between the low and the high of the day. Actually, I have a couple bottoming tails here. So how do we play these? Whenever we have a bounce play setup like I just showed you on the 15-minute basis on the daily chart, we're looking for a bounce today. One of my favorite things that stock can do is gap down and put in a narrow range for the first 5 or 10 minutes, okay? So then the entry on this becomes simply a break of this narrow range to the upside. What's good about the narrow range is your stop's going to be at the worst case low of the day. So you take the long entry at 1480, your worst case stop is at 1464. It's only 16 cents a share risk. Look what happens. You get the high of day break, and you get shorts that shorted this morning, thinking RIM's going to zero, or Blackberry, sorry, and it's just off to the races. Now, here's the capper. I didn't catch this. I was focused on another one, which I'll show you in just a second. So I completely missed, trying to do too much at the open, but completely missed this. But that doesn't change the fact that that's a beautiful setup and a beautiful play, low-risk trade idea. And so that's the point of me bringing it up here. Not trying to say, hey, look at this great trade I called because I missed it. This is exactly how we play them, though. And it was on a chart on one of my monitors. I got 3 monitors on one of my monitors to the right, and I just missed it. But it just goes to show you that's a beautiful setup. And what a great way to start the day, unfortunately, without me. Now, MLNX meets the same parameters I just taught you, or just showed you, okay? MLNX had this crazy move here, especially on this day. It went from a low of 58.75 to 65.77 in one day. That's huge. Okay, then it's down a few days in a row, right? And then today it gaps down. Now look what happens if you go to 5-minute candles. This is the one I showed the room that could get going. You had the same thing as Blackberry. You had the huge move, and then today you get the gap down. So I had this on the projector, told everybody if this gets back through 56, this could get a nice move. Having said that, I also said I don't really have a great tight stop for you because the low of the day was 55.36. So it's kind of a wide stop, but just to show you anyway how it played out, the push through 56 over the next half hour got you to 57. All right, so a quick dollar in 30 minutes, really less than 30 minutes. Another example of a bounce play that gapped down, break of that 5-minute high, solid trade. And it just chopped around the rest of the day, but there's a good example. As far as my calls today, I didn't have anything great. I missed an early entry in JCPenney's. I ended up calling JCPenney's again. Let's see, over this little base. I said if it gets over 1650, probably lights up the new high sticker, a lot of shorts. And the stop was at 16, I think 30, 34, something like that. So there's the entry, there's the stop. From 16.50, this went to 17.17, I believe. So not a bad trade. It was easy profit. Only came back for the one retest and then really kind of got going. Then grinded the rest of the day. Let's see what else. Oh, my best call of the day was CTRX. Now, here's another type of kind of bounce play, a different way to play it. Okay, let's take today's candle out of it. CTRX was on bounce watch because look at this. 5, 6, 7 or 8 candles in a row red down to the area of breakout, right? You had this long base here. You had a high back here. You had a retest of the high and it went back down. Then you had this nice base right around this all around this $52 price range. And then you have like 8 days in a row back down. This is a good place to look for a bounce. Then I'll throw today's candle back in and you can see what it did. Now, how did I call this one? Well, because it was on bounce watch, here it was at the open. We didn't get the narrow range like in Blackberry that I showed you, but instead we got something almost as much. It already down that many days in a row, and then it opens and sells off. This is a great scenario to try to play a turn using 5-minute candles. And actually, when this one was turning green, I put it on the projector, told everybody this could be a good buy right around the area. And it was 50. I got filled at, I think, 50.84. I'm not positive. It was somewhere in the 50.80s. Don't remember the exact price. My worst case stop was going to be a low of day break. And look at the turn there. Ends up getting through the high of the day. Trying to see how high it went. It went to 52.34, so it went up like $1.50 from where I called it. And the stop was only 25 cents below, something like that. So there's another great example of how to play a bounce play, something that's down all these days in a row. An early sell-off. Those are the two things I look for on bounce plays. An early sell-off or a gap down in a narrow range. Okay, those are the two things. And I think that was about it for me for the day. I had a, let's see, got a quick dime out of some Blackberry. Nothing else really worth talking about. CVC, I called after this spike. Unfortunately, I missed this spike. I was out of the room. It was a lunchtime slowdown. I called it at, I think, 14.26 right here, and we only got to move to 14.40. I did make some money on that, but not as much as I did, obviously, on CTRX. So anyway, I babbled enough, guys. Have a great night, and we'll see everybody tomorrow.